Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've been checking out Deadzone Rogue, which has just came out into early access. It's currently $15.99 on Steam and it's sitting at 82% positive reviews. One thing to note though, the past two games this developer has made, Tribes 3 and a game called Star Siege Deadzone, which look pretty much exactly like this game, they both abandoned in early access. So that is just one thing to make you aware of. Deadzone Rogue is a fast-paced roguelike FPS set in deep space. You'll be blasting your way through hordes of enemies with a bunch of weapons. As you play, you'll be able to define your combat style with powerful augments and upgrades, grow stronger with each death, solo or in co-op, die, rinse and repeat. The core gameplay loop involves battling through them hordes of enemies, looting powerful gear and upgrading your character with various augments or like temporary perks. Each death is a learning experience, and when you die you can permanently upgrade your character, so you'll have more health, more armor, better accuracy, stuff like that, so that the next run should be a little bit easier. First up is gameplay, and well, this game does bring the action, sometimes maybe a bit too much. The combat is fast, it's frantic, you'll be weaving through enemy fire and you'll be throwing everything you've got at hordes of enemies. You've got a wide variety of weapons, I think there's over 30 in the game to choose from, and the loot system can be exciting, especially when like an epic powerful gun drops that you want and it changes the tide of battle. You can also get armor upgrades with the usual colours to signify standard or epic, and I will say the UI was super easy to understand here, so you generally knew quickly what you were swapping in and out. There wasn't like loads and loads and loads of stats on the screen. Once you've killed all the enemies in the section, so like the game is split into like small sections, like it might just be like a room, it might be a hangar, it might be something like that, you're then given some sort of power up at the end to temporarily boost some sort of stat. So it might be like an augment, it might be like a perk. Just imagine something a bit like Vampire Survivors. So you might unlock a little bot to go and help you and be a companion and shoot things. You may go down the route of like a health boost that'll become a bit more tanky, so you'll go down that route of a character build. Then every few levels you'll reach like a safe zone. This is where you'll get some health back, you can upgrade weapons and armor or buy new ones. And how you do this is by collecting like these little things that enemies drop. There are a few core gameplay elements that I found to leave me a little bit frustrated. I found the difficulty spikes to be a bit off at times. Some runs or some sections you can feel like you're breezing through and you're like, yeah, I'm doing really well. And then others were just like absolutely impossible. There wasn't like, oh, well, this is a little bit difficult. It just went from like challenging to brutal without much warning. And that can be a little bit frustrating when you have to go all the way back to the start when you die. The whole roguelike loop as well didn't feel tight as it should. Yeah, dying is part of the fun in these sort of games, but the random level design and loot sometimes leads to runs that feel like you're fighting more against the game and the RNG rather than the enemies, and then just dying because of some RNG element or some massive difficulty spike. It just adds to that frustration. I think a balance pass is needed, and I know some people enjoy the relentless grind to get a bit better each time. However, I have seen in some reviews people say this game is super easy, so maybe I'm just rubbish, I don't know, but I do personally think it needs some sort of pass. And then just some augments just didn't make a huge difference in combat, and that takes away from the sense of progression. Like Vampire Survivors, I always felt I was getting something better, something good, and I just felt in this game sometimes I was a bit like, actually I don't want any of these, none of these are going to improve anything, and I don't think it should be that way. But these are all things that I think the developer could really work on and improve quite quickly. Graphically, I think this game looks pretty good. It's got a futuristic sci-fi look. The environments are pretty detailed, with each sector of the ship having like its own unique design. There's beach and hangars, there's a bar area, and it all looks really well done. The lighting effects, especially during combat sequences, are pretty decent with like bullets and lasers flying around, and it really adds to the game's atmosphere. Animations were pretty smooth as well, and the weapons looked pretty decent. UI, no problem. Sound-wise, the weapon sounds are punchy and satisfying. There's ambient sounds in the environment which add to the tension and the atmosphere, and the music was alright too. So in conclusion, Deadzone Rogue is a pretty thrilling, fast-paced first-person shooter game that does show some promise, but it also falls down in some areas. It does show great potential. There is a core gameplay loop that I think could develop into something really good. It's got nice graphics and the combat is pretty fun. However, the randomness can make it it feel a bit more frustrating than fun at times, especially when the run is sabotaged by the bad random generation. The loot and augments should offer a bit more depth than they do, and to round it all off, the track record of the developer leaves a little bit to be desired, and I think there's a worry there. But despite these issues, I would maybe add it to your wish list, see if they finish the game and what improvements they make, and then make a decision. However, for £15, it's also not a bad price for the game. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say on this one. Don't forget to drop this video a like, comment below to let me know what you think of Deadzone. Will you be picking it up? Will you be wishlisting or waiting? And most importantly, hit that bell notification so you don't miss a video. Catch us on the next one. Goodbye.